Okay, we're here with Stephanne Davenport, and she is the county treasurer, running again. She's the incumbent, running for her office. I'm John Wirtz, Montgomery County Tea Party. With me tonight is Larry Rogers, Dell Fessenden, James Byers, Maureen Ball, Dennis, and Pat Tibbs. So if you like Stephanne, go ahead and take up to 5 minutes for your opening.
Okay.
And thanks for coming today.
Well, I was going to start with, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to sit with you all tonight. I am Stephanne Davenport. I'm your Montgomery County Treasurer. I can tell you today that you have $328,609,894.77 all safely deposited and invested. All of the county bills are paid, and all of the county employees are paid. I'm sure that many of you have heard me rattle that off a time or two in the past, but what's important about me knowing that number is that it shows that I am invested in my department, I'm engaged with my staff, I work alongside my staff daily. So what I'd like to do is just take you on a little journey and talk to you about the evolution of the office of county treasurer. In 2013, my predecessor announced her retirement. I had been with the department for about 3 years. I knew it needed a serious overhaul, needed to be modernized. So when the court opted to go through an interview process, I applied for the job. I earned the appointment, and my term started July 1st of 2013. So along with our daily tasks, we spent the last of that year going through interview processes with my current staff, identifying skill sets, learning about strengths and weaknesses with each employee, and then identifying those weaknesses and building a path to improve them. So in 2014, we went through and developed procedure guides for every single task that is accomplished in my department. And it kind of served two different purposes. One, no task is vulnerable in the event of a catastrophe or unexpected absences. We run a pretty small staff. So you've got your guide, the job's going to get done, may not be pretty, but we're going to get through it and business is going to continue on as usual. The other reason it's really important is when you dissect your daily task, it kind of forces you to take everything up here and put it on paper. And so you can start to look at it and go, okay, why do I do what I do? And is that the most effective way to do it? So we spent a lot of time creating those procedure guides. And what we learned is there were a lot of ways to shorten the length of time that it took to do these tasks. So the end result was the same outcomes, but less time to get there. So also in that year, I went through the local government code and started to determine what statutorily belonged in the county treasurer's office. Were there duties that should be performed in my office that weren't being? And we identified a couple, so I worked with the county auditor, Phyllis Martin, and we brought those job duties over from her office into mine. One of those was cash receipting. It was kind of split up between the two departments. And then the other was the county investment portfolio was being managed by the county auditor. So we brought that over. And our department has created a cash flow analysis, so we're always up to date with liquidity, which gives us a better idea of how to manage the county portfolio. And just this past year, through the due diligence and the project management that we put into place with it, we exceeded the budgeted expectations by $2.5 million of investment revenue. So 2015 and 2016, we just kept our noses down and continued to do a lot of the training and cross-training within the department, because I knew that I felt like I could do a reorg successfully, even bringing in more responsibilities and still reduce my staff. I had an employee retire in 2015. I kept that position because I knew it was going to take me 2 positions in order to accomplish that. And then in 2016, I had a second employee announce her retirement. So I knew then that I would be able to execute my reorg, consolidate some of the job responsibilities. And as I know you all know, in March of this year, I went before the court and made it official and reduced my budget by 7.2% and reduced my staff by 1. So I'm really excited because I'm not done. I think about that and look back on how much we've accomplished in my department. I walked in and every office had typewriters. and everybody used them. So, you know, we've gotten away from that. We've really started to modernize the department, and I know that the new ERP system is going to help with that, the new finance system and the new timekeeping system, and I'm looking forward to what the future years bring.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned, we'll just dive right into it. You mentioned March 22nd of this year when you came before Commissioners Court. And I think it's the same date that Conroe Courier editor Andy Dubois wrote an op-ed about possibly eliminating the county treasurer's position. He referred to not only, I believe it was 9 counties, having done away with it, but also the state too. Those counties vary greatly in population size, ranging, from small 25,000 to almost 2 million, and annual budgets 15 million to 1.7 billion. Where is he wrong in that article?
Okay, well, he is right in that 9 counties do not have a county treasurer, or it used to be 9. Actually, 1 reinstated their county treasurer, so it's 8. A county treasurer has not been abolished, I believe, since the early 90s. I believe that when you have a department in which every position has validity, you've got a really strong department, and that's what I have developed over time. Every position in my department is a producer, and they have a full day's worth of work. There's no excess in my department. I think that there's still room for improvement, and we're constantly looking for that, as I think any leader would be. But when they talk about abolishing the department, those job responsibilities still have to get done. There's still county business that has to get done. So I can't see the validity. I read the article as well. It actually, I went before the court on the 14th, March the 14th, and then he came out with that article on the 22nd.
Okay. All right. Larry?
How many employees is in your staff now?
Staff of 6 plus me, so 7.
7, okay. If you could, walk us through, you're responsible for the money going out for payroll and such.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you could explain how that system works. I know you've got East County, West County, South County, and North County, so how do you get all that information into you and
Okay.
get people paid?
Okay, so with payroll, there's 2 different ways that people are currently doing it. We have 4 departments that actually use a timekeeping software that is integrated in with the current finance system. Now, kind of keep in mind, the current finance system's over 20 years old. It's pretty antiquated, and it's time for a new one, and we're really excited. But so you have 4 departments that are on a timekeeping system, and it works great for the timekeeping side. Where we have a lot of issues with it is on the leave bank side. So, because what happens is the finance system and the timekeeping system, the leave banks don't read each other. They can't communicate. So we only have those 4 departments on it. The rest of the departments manually enter their time. So 62, because we have 66 departments that are on payroll. So right now they manually enter their time. And like I said, with the new finance system, everybody will be on an automated timekeeping system.
When will that be, you think?
Well, with pending court approval, we're hoping that the implementation process will start in February of next year.
Is there a cost associated with that?
With the
new
new
system?
Yes.
How
Yes.
much is that?
Purchasing is still working on that, but we should be ready to present it to the court in January and have the final numbers.
Okay.
Okay, Dave?
First of all, just a real quick one. What department is leading? Or is it the Treasury, your Treasurer department that's leading the implementation of that new system?
Yes, it's being co-chaired by myself and Phyllis, and our project manager is Ray Armstead.
Okay.
And we will work, I think you all know, or if not, I'll explain it. We have a consulting firm that we have brought in. They know best practice, they know implementation, it's what they deal with every day, and we're utilizing them and their expertise to help us with this project. But what will happen is the departments that are impacted, and mine is one of them, we will choose a SME, a subject matter expert from each of these departments, and they will work in what we're dubbing the war room for 2 years. And if you saw, I have a part-time position that I've got approved through court, and that is because I'm going to lose my subject matter expert off and on, and I will need somebody working part-time these next 2 years to help with that vacancy while one of my staff members is out.
Okay, and my follow-on is right along those lines. You mentioned you and Phyllis. Can you please explain a little bit the interaction between the county auditor and the county treasurer, how you work together? Obviously, Phyllis is at the county, is at a desk or whatever, has a position at a desk at the Commissioners Court meeting, and you don't, and I'm just curious why
Sure.
not?
A big part of that is because Phyllis has been the chief budget officer. So she fields a lot of the budget questions. Phyllis and I, we serve as a really excellent system of checks and balances for the county. Mostly what you have now, since, like I said, whenever I went over local government code to explore what should be accomplished in my office versus the county auditor's office, is you have a lot now where the work is being produced in my office, and then she does her job of auditing the work that we produce.
Okay. So are you going to be sitting up there to answer questions, or is she capable of answering all the questions that come up during Commissioners Court?
She fields anything to do with, well, right now, yeah, with court. So I'm capable of answering their questions.
Okay.
But when they hire the chief budget officer, I would imagine that who would be sitting up there as well.
Okay.
And when will they be the chief budget officer?
I don't know when they will hire, but I believe the job's been posted.
Okay.
Now, you're talking about paying the salaries and so forth. I guess, does that include the salaries of the different precinct employees, county precinct employees, the commissioners have?
Yes, we pay all, there's close to 2,500 county employees.
Okay. Now, what about the different commissioner precincts expenditures? Are you responsible for writing the checks for those?
We cut the checks for those, we do.
Okay.
And we serve with the county auditor as that system of checks and balances. Her department enters accounts payable, we print and balance it.
So the county commissioner wants a check written for some expenditure, because, the budget basically is like, it's got huge blobs with no particular requirement as to where the money be spent or how. What's the check and balance that is or maybe could be improved on there as to what the money is being spent on?
Well, I think hopefully that's where you're going to see your budget officer come in and be very hands-on with the departments. Really, you're relying on the leader of each department as far as how they spend the funds that have been allotted to them.
So they're responsible for how the money is spent, not really the county treasurer, I guess you're saying, right?
Right.
Okay.
I'm responsible for the money in and the money out. I don't
Okay.
get to tell them how to allot it.
Got it. Now, what about bonds? When bonds are, a lot of people don't understand that when we vote for a bond and if it's passed, that doesn't mean the money appears. The bond has to be sold. Who determines how the bond is sold, at what rate, what attorney is used, what firms are
Right.
used? Who makes that decision?
That is going to be with Phyllis Martin and Craig Doyle, the county judge.
I see. So your area has no particular review over that particular
Right.
process, right?
When the bond is sold, then we're responsible for the investment of the funds.
How do you determine who to use for investing those funds?
We have broker-dealer contracts. The investment,
If you don't, do you negotiate that particular contract, or someone tell you who to use for that particular
no,
deal?
we negotiate that. They apply to be a broker with the county.
Okay.
And so, once a year, the investment committee will have a meeting and we'll determine whether or not we want to look at any new brokers.
One quick question, if I could. Is there an attorney that y'all use in that process?
We have the county attorney's office is present,
So J.D. Lambright?
or a
office.
designee, right.
Okay, got it, thanks.
Who's on the investment committee?
Okay, you have a citizen of the county, and then you have you have myself as the chief investment officer. Jan Avery is my financial analyst, and she is on the committee as well. Phyllis Martin serves, and so does a representative from the county attorney's office will serve as an advisor.
Who's the citizen?
Is Don Heathcott?
Don Heathcott.
Yes.
And are those meetings posted, I guess, somewhere?
We don't post them. It's not a public meeting, but we have them once a year.
Why would that not be a public meeting since it's county business?
You know, Open Meetings Act, you're saying it's exempt from that?
Right.
Oh.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I left off the county judge, Craig Doyle.
But as treasurer, do you have the ultimate responsibility for the investment?
Yes, yes. And it, you know, like I say, the investment policy with Montgomery County is extremely conservative. Just like the county is extremely conservative. And so you don't pay taxes for me to day trade with those funds. So we are extremely careful in putting those in local pools. A lot of our money is with our bank depository or mutual funds or CDs.
I noticed you kept saying "we," but isn't it you that makes
It
that?
is me. It is me. I have a financial analyst that I work with. She's in my department.
And who is that?
That's Jan Avery.
Okay, and is that one of your staff members?
Yes.
Okay, and you say that you negotiate the broker-dealer contracts. Can you, well, I guess next time around you can explain what that process is. I'm out of town.
Okay.
You said we made a couple of $1 million off the investments,
Yes.
which are 300 or so million?
Yes.
So that's 6/7 of a point.
Right.
And where did these monies get invested? You not on the market, not on the NASDAQ or New
We
York
don't
Stock
do,
Exchange?
yeah, right. We don't go out and buy stock in GE. What you're looking at is local government pools. So, or CDs. We do invest in a lot of CDs. One of the new accounts that we brought in recently it's called FICA. It's a federally insured cash account. So they took our money and they divided it up. They have a system and they put no more than $250,000 in each bank. We get a nice return on that investment. It's extremely liquid. But it was a way to increase the interest without increasing risk.
So we have roughly a year's budget in reserve. What are the laws that require us to do that? Why can't we loan it to ourselves instead of taking 3 or 4% bonds, or loan it to the school districts or someplace else instead of creating so much money for the lending industry?
Yeah,
Is there a legal requirement that we can't
no,
something like 3?
no, but it definitely helps with our credit rating.
Might help my credit rating too. So have we always kept a few $100 million around?
Well, part of that you're hearing me talk about is bond money. It just hasn't been used yet. So we've cashed in some of the bonds. But now, and I can't, that money stays extremely liquid. I don't know when the commissioners will plan to use those funds.
So we get a 3% or 4% bond and we invest it at 0.5%.
Yes,
That doesn't sound like a good practice.
because it's going to be utilized, you know.
Okay.
Going along with that, how much is in the bonds? Do you have a figure on that?
Roughly 90 million, I believe.
That's current
Yeah.
now.
Stephanie, who, aside from the voters, do you report to anybody in the county structure?
No, I don't report to anybody. I think every department has requirements where we have to meet with certain departments and make sure that everybody's on the same page or has the same goal in mind.
Mhm. What happens if you don't?
You work it out.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
I was just curious. I didn't know if there was a higher authority there. Wow, I was looking at all the civic, political, and union organizations there. It's pretty impressive.
Do you
Fine
sleep?
team to sleep.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do.
Okay. All right. So, who is New Danville, Hope's Path, and Wise Conference?
Okay, New Danville is a community out in Willis. They work with the intellectually disabled and challenged, and they provide both day services as well as housing for those students. It was a vision that was started by Kathy Sanders, and we've just continued to watch it grow. WISE Conference is an annual women's conference. I believe we just had our 5th one. I've been involved with that one since inception. That's a conference for women to help with networking, business experience, and then we also use part of the funds go towards a local nonprofit. So it's a fundraiser as well.
And Hope's Path.
Hope's Path is, okay, that's an amazing facility. They work with young adults who have aged out of the foster care system but aren't ready to be self-sufficient. So say they're 16 and they're trying to still go to school, but they have no home. The term that you typically hear is they're called a couch surfer, because they just go around until they can find somebody that will put them up for a while. So they provide them with the necessities to help them succeed and to try to thrive and try to help them get into college programs.
On the budget, our question was, please describe the plan for balancing the county budget. What budget items need to be cut and taxes and fees need to be increased? Basically said, I believe in small government and reduced budget reflected in my record. You just told us at the beginning that your budget had gone down, what, 7.8%?
7.2.
7.2. So that explains that. Do you have any input in the commissioners when they go over their budget and everything?
I do not. What I would love to see, now that we're going to have a chief budget officer, I would like to see a committee formed that consisted of, a lot like the finance committee, investment committee, that consisted of a private citizen, but also your county treasurer, a member from the court, and your chief budget officer. And I think that would be an amazing resource for that department, especially in its stages.
Okay. Dale, you can have my minute.
Okay. Now I can certainly use it. Found your answer to the question, please describe your views on gambling as a funding source for education and other budget items. Found your answer interesting because you said the government should not be dictating personal freedoms and the free market would determine if it's profitable, therefore taxable enterprise. Now, in general, I agree with that statement, but that could be broad enough to say, well, okay, if it's taxable, it should be allowable, like legalize marijuana, legalize pornography, legalized prostitution. Where do you draw the line?
Okay,
if it's profitable, it's okay?
No.
No, okay.
No, but you asked a question and I gave you an answer, and I don't have the answer for that. I have my own reservations about gambling, and whether or not I would want it in my state. But I know that gambling is effective as far as being a taxable resource.
Well, I'm not an expert, but I've read enough articles that indicate that it brings more downsides than upsides. Presumably you've read them as
Right.
well.
Those are all lies.
Dot the I.
James is a perhaps expert here.
Okay. Okay, totally shifting to one of the other curiosities. Your answer on the Constitution, on the platform. Your answer on the platform was yes, you agree with it. So, just out of curiosity, when did you last read it?
Yesterday.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Burn.
Okay. And can you give us maybe one or two or three of your favorite planks?
Yes, I believe and I agree with, that we want a government who works smarter, more efficiently, smaller, I agree with that, and I hope that that's what you've seen that I've done with my own department. And that's what I meant when I was referring to the budget and leading by example. Hopefully others will use that as an example. Another, education. I believe heavily in education and the importance of it and making it available, affordable.
Any of the immigration plans you would comment on?
Not on the record.
Okay, then my time is up.
You mentioned here you went to college. What was your degree?
I have an Associate's of Arts and Applied Sciences.
Okay. Any financial courses that you took during that?
During that, I did, and then also I worked for a tax office for 6 years.
That's right, you said that. I guess you do have one opponent, Melanie Bush. So for anyone watching this video, give them a reason why they should vote for you rather than your opponent, and be as specific as you can.
Okay, I believe
Qualifications or whatever.
I believe I'm proven between my experience at the CPA firm as well as the tenure that I've got with the county. I believe that you can see that I have a vision and I see it through. I know how to look for process improvements and to make it happen effectively and efficiently. I believe that when you see a need, then you address that need. We had a lot of people who did payroll based on how they'd always done it. You couldn't ask them why they did it that way because that was their response. Well, we've always done it that way. So I launched the first of a series of workshops. It's an annual payroll and personnel workshop, and I worked closely with the county, or with risk management, who handles the county benefits, and human resources. And then we brought in the county attorney's office and the county auditor's office, and we put together an annual payroll workshop. And it works out great because people that are used to grabbing whatever form that they've always used out of the side of their desk are reminded that these forms are available online, the latest and greatest, and the ones that contain the accurate information. And we show them processes that maybe they didn't know existed that help them shorten their time. So it's just constantly looking for ways to be innovative.
Do you think there's anything your opponent would not be able to do that you are able to do?
No.
Okay, thanks.
I just want to ask you about the organizational chart, basically, of the county, because as treasurer, you're an independent position. So how does this chief budget officer fit in with that?
Well, the chief budget officer reports to the court. So it's separate from the county treasurer position.
So why is it needed?
Okay, because by statute, that function, the role of chief budget officer, it's dictated to us how it has to function. And it is either, by statute, it is either performed by your county auditor or it is performed by the county judge who can appoint a chief budget officer. And that's what you have seen happen.
So that could be under the auditors.
And it has been, correct.
Okay. And how will that person work in connection with you? Because what do you do if some department is over their budget? I mean, isn't there a red flag that goes out before you write the check?
Yeah, but that's handled in the budget office. And there is basically a red flag.
Well, how does that red flag happen in your office? Because your office is the one that writes the checks.
We do, but by the time it's gotten to us, okay, so accounts payable. They go through a process, say, human resources wants to order pens, and I'm just trying to use an easy excuse.
Sure.
And so they go through purchasing, that PO is created, they order the supplies, audit is notified of the expense. So budget goes at that time to make sure that they've got the budget for it. And then audit processes that accounts payable check, and then our office, after all the accounts payable checks are ready, our office goes and prints them, balances them, and then submits them to the payee.
So the auditor actually writes the check?
The auditor
Approves the check?
She approves it.
And why does the treasurer not approve it?
It could go either way. By statute, That could go either way. That's a function that can be performed by the county auditor or the county treasurer. I have no issue with the way this is handled, because it's another system of checks and balances. She creates the purchase order, or the check, we print it, we balance it, we send it out.
Okay, I want to come back and follow up on that my next time around.
Okay.
I'm out of time.
So does human resources go out and shop and buy a box of pens, and your department buys a box of pens, and the court buys a box of pens? Or does somebody buy a case of pens?
No, but we do have negotiated rates. So we go through purchasing with an approved vendor to purchase that box of pens.
Okay, so each of them can go down to Home Depot and look at your contract, and get the same box for the same price?
Office Depot?
Okay.
Oh, no, but I know what you
Two by
meant.
fours, right? Okay, well, let me ask you also about your new software. It sounds like you've been working on getting the updated software for a
Right.
while.
But you're right.
And we hear a lot about what the courts do. They basically got dueling software. Some people use that data, and some people use Tyler.
Mhm.
So do you have the software that competes with other departments' software, or do y'all have some sort of standard software that a whole lot of departments can use?
We have the current finance system, which is Penimation. It's been out of business for a while. But we have that finance system,
What is it?
Pentimation.
Okay.
That is, anybody who needs access to the finance system, they have that software installed on their computer.
Is that the stuff they're trying to implement right now?
No, I thought you were asking me about how we currently were set up.
Well, but aren't you going to a new software package?
Yes, we are currently
So you're gonna
going.
replace that.
Right.
And there will be a common software for more than one department?
Oh, yeah. And there is now. So I guess what the point I was trying to make is there is now, we all use the same finance system. There's different modules. So you have your sheriff's office has their system, but as far as the finance system, the sheriff's office still uses the same finance system that the other departments use.
Do the courts also use that?
They use it for payroll and for their budget.
Okay, so they have at least two sets of software.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
But you have to, because you have your court system, and then you have your finance system.
Okay.
What's the new system called?
We haven't gotten that far.
Oh, okay.
I don't think
So
we
you're
can release
still
that data yet,
negotiating
but we're still in
with-
negotiations.
Oh, okay. And so y'all are supposed to nail that down by January?
We're
end of
hoping
this
to.
year,
Yes,
and then start implementing in February?
right.
Okay. And a 2-year.
Because I swing for the fences, so
Yeah,
that's what we're working on.
okay. So, on the general questions, what are your three biggest concerns about the treasurer's office? Let's see, you mentioned the second one was maintaining ourselves as a 365 resource to all county departments. Is that 365 days a year?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we've worked really hard to kind of develop that philosophy. We want to be a year-round resource for the county employees. We're available, if the county's operating, we want to be accessible. So I say 24/7, 365, because we want to be there for, we're a customer service department, basically.
Okay. And then moving on to taxes question. The question was, do you support or oppose increasing and broadening the sales tax to reduce property taxes? And you said you support a consumption or a sales tax. How would you implement that if you were the king? And would you do it over time, cold turkey, or what?
Well, it wouldn't be an off-the-cuff decision. It's not one that I can answer today. I can't tell you what that model would look like. I just know that, and I'm a taxpayer too. I know that I feel the burn. And there's got to be other solutions. Do I have the answer? No. But if there was a committee, I'd love to be on it.
I think cutting spending would be a good start.
And I agree. And that was one of the first things I saw that was needed in my department.
Yeah, well, and the budget committee, came forth with that, so time will tell, I guess. you know, how
And
that
see-
plays out.
Your budget committee, the budget committee, really aligned with my philosophies, because a lot of the change that you wanted to accomplish that through attrition. It's not that you want to create that fear with the employees that their jobs are at stake and they're going to lose their jobs, but what I accomplished can be accomplished, but it takes time.
Okay.
So, a precinct needs a tractor. They put a PO in to the purchasing department. And the purchasing department's responsibility is to negotiate and buy that particular tractor for the best price. Is that the way the system
Yes.
works? And then, once they've found it and they're happy with the price, then if it's puts the commissioner over budget, what happens?
That would be up to the requesting department. They would have the option to go before court.
Yeah. So really, the auditing, I guess that's in the auditing department,
Mhm.
and so they would stop it, or
Mhm.
if they wanted to write a check for a truck, let's say a commissioner wanted to write a check for a truck, he can't just do that. He's got to go through the process.
Right.
Yeah, okay. On transparency, you said that the Montgomery County participates in OpenGov, a platform which displays all transactions. Explain that a little bit, and is that available to the taxpayer?
Yes. And you can find the link to it on the county website. And also on my treasurer page, I have the statement of balances. Once it's been approved through court and once we get it back from the county clerk's office, then we post that online. Transparency hits you from a lot of different levels. So anytime that I receive an open records request, if it's a report that maybe we don't run, we don't have that, that specific data, I'll make sure that we get that information in the format that's been requested, and then that's what we'll send.
Okay. With your new system, one of the things that, sitting through commissioners' court meetings, that always just makes my eyes go like this, is when they say, permission to transfer $400 from account 123.456 to account 414.824. That's meaningless. Okay. When you get your new system online, will those kinds of things in commissioners' court be able to be a little bit more understandable to?
Sure, and that's the I always go to philosophical shift. Everything that you try to do or implement or change, it's all about what philosophies are driving you for that change. And yes, that would definitely be something that could be addressed to where when they call out basically it's a chart of account numbers that mean nothing to the majority of the people, there could be an opportunity there to put in what that means and where that's pulling it from.
Okay, and would all of that be, I was not on the committee that John was on.
I wouldn't either.
Oh, you weren't, okay.
Just
I was not on that
reference
committee.
to it.
So I'm not all that familiar with looking at the county budget and all those line items and everything else. What little looking I've done, again, it's one of those like this. Is that gonna become more clear? Is it a requirement of the new system that all of that is transformed? I mean, converting the old system to the new system, and it's gonna be a whole lot clearer, more straightforward, et cetera?
I think you're gonna see the reports definitely will be easier to read. So yes, I think it will be easier to filter through it and understand what you're seeing. I know for my the bank reconciliations are, I see it, and from a kind of a nerdy standpoint, I get a little, I'm happy because I know it's going to be a lot easier to read and to understand.
Okay, good. Good news. James.
You spoke about this in your opening, but I want to give you a chance to respond directly. Your opponent has said that in the budget hearing Wednesday, it was reported that our county's payroll costs are 77 cents a check or $20 per employee per year. Rough cost of payroll, she's saying, is closer to $103.50 per employee or $3.98 a check, when including department staff time for payroll prep before it goes to the treasurer's office, and doesn't include the time for individual employees to fill out manual timesheets. Well, she's saying with ADP and paychecks charging roughly $2 a check on the high side, I think we could do better than even that. So how would you respond to those particular charges?
Sure. When I went before court during the budget workshops, that was department specific. I was telling them what my department accomplishes, what we take on, what we produce. So my figures were definitely accurate
For your
for
right,
my department.
Okay.
Some of what I've heard, I've read, I've seen, it is very inaccurate.
Mhm.
We have 66 county departments. We have roughly 2,500 employees. We have only 100, right at 150 that are not on direct deposit. So when you hear discussion about the time it takes to have to come pick up the checks, you're talking about a very small number, most of which are downtown around the courthouse on the square. So the travel time is almost nil. And then, like, I have one department out in precinct 4, that they pick up their payroll a day early. You know, we accommodate them, they drop off their receipting the day on Thursday, and then it's just understood between the commissioner and myself, those checks are not distributed until Friday morning on payday. And so we've worked to accommodate, we know we're working with an antiquated system, but we have worked really hard these past few years to accommodate everybody, to streamline processes where we can, and to reduce the time it takes to accomplish those.
Now, you mentioned replacing the manual timesheets with an automated system.
Right.
Do the different county commissioners have to agree to participate, or will that just be a given?
I think that they will jump on this. I think that they will want to do this. It will be a, we will make a unified effort to get every department on board.
Mm-hmm.
I have not had a department say to me that this was something they would not look forward to. I think everybody's looking forward to this.
So county precinct 4 comes, gets a bag of checks, goes back and says mail day, and hands out their checks basically right now.
On Friday. Yeah, and one of the things we have to do that just drives me crazy.
That's my precinct.
Oh, well, we still have to print direct deposit stubs because our current finance system won't let you, there's no module that we can use that will give you online access to your check stubs, but with the new finance system, we won't even print them. If you have direct deposit, it will be automatic.
One question, you mentioned that you cut the checks on Thursday for precinct 4 to accommodate them. How can that be done if a lot of them are hourly?
Okay, I don't cut them on Thursday. What I was saying is we let them come pick them up. Pay date ends on a Friday. The pay period ends on a Friday.
Right.
They're paid the next Friday. So during that week, we are processing payroll.
Okay.
Payroll's being audited, checks are being
So
printed.
we-
And usually because of all the, and I keep referring to it, but because of all the streamlining we've done, checks are printed and ready on Wednesday. And so it is no problem whatsoever to allow.
So it's not paid. What I was getting at is, I was thinking you were paying for that week and you're
No.
cutting the check. How could you do
No,
that?
you
if it's-
couldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, you couldn't.
Right, I'm just trying to understand the checks and balances between the auditor and your department. So if a commissioner wants to write a check or wants to request a truck, and it's really not in his budget, but somehow or another it's an oversight, the auditor approves it, what's to prevent you from continuing on with what the auditor approved, which wasn't actually in the budget?
Sure. And that's a hypothetical, but there are mechanisms in place that it hasn't happened. That's why it hasn't happened, and I've been with the county treasurer's office since 2010.
So what are those mechanisms?
Well, you have your budget. Your budget's going to catch it because it's going to throw that budget line item into the negative. So it's going to automatically notify the departments. And then hopefully, first you've got your commissioner and his.
Well, I'm more concerned about your department. How do your department, the treasurer department, catch when something's not within the budget?
It's caught in budget.
So it's not in your department at all that you catch it?
It is not a function in my department. If the check has been processed and it's ready to be cut, it's because it's gone through all of the approval steps to get there.
So, but you're responsible for the money in and out of the county.
Right. I'm not responsible for how it's allocated. So I have to account for and give reporting based on monies in and monies out.
So do you report when something's out of budget?
No, your currently the county auditor does because she's over budget.
Okay, and I know, like, how many people are in our county?
I'm sorry?
How many people are in Montgomery County?
Just over 550,000?
Okay, with the chief budget officer, isn't that usually a duty of the auditor when you're over a certain number of people in the county?
Right, and that's what I referenced earlier. It has been a function of the county auditor for
So-
years. I don't know how many years, but I know for a long time. Because a county our size, by statute, that job is performed either by your county auditor or your county judge can appoint a chief budget officer.
And, all right, that's interesting. That's all I have.
So are we getting a new chief budget officer?
Yes, they created a department.
Okay. Well, all right. I see on the privacy issue question, you said that you protect the privacy of all your employees. So I'm guessing you protect the privacy of the citizens too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was referring to payroll. I think that the question was about Texas and the federal government.
Texas and the federal government, right, between
Right.
safety and privacy.
Right.
So as far as citizens are concerned, who in the state or federal government will call them and ask you for information, and do they ever do it?
We get open records requests, and we have to respond. And so you are allowed access as a citizen, as a taxpayer. You are allowed access to employee records, but there's certain information within there. Most of it lies within the on the withholding side. That is not public, so it is not, I am not gonna share information with you regarding child support or regarding.
Judgments or liens
Right,
or
tax levies,
any of that stuff, yeah.
any of that.
But
we
salary would be public, you're
It
saying?
is public, and overtime, a lot of people, they get a little confused between salary schedules and actuals, I guess you would call it, because there is a difference. And you are allowed access to all of that. I just have to be careful and make sure that what information isn't public, we don't give out. But we go through
And
the,
would a court from some other county call you up to ask about the take-home pay of some employee? And who would they contact? You, how many employees
how many employees in the county?
in your office?
6, plus me, 7.
So they can conceivably they could call anybody and ask a question like that. And
I can see where they would, but confidentiality is extremely important in my
and where do
department.
the open records requests go? Do they go to you?
They go to me.
They don't go to somebody
They
on
go
JD?
to-
or
they go to-
clerk, County
well,
clerk or JD? Or
Yeah,
your
I'm sure
office?
they do. Open records requests are fielded by a lot of different offices. It just depends on what the data is that's being requested. Like if you send me an open records request for timesheets, I'm gonna have to respond to you and tell you that I don't have them because I don't keep departmental timesheets. Those are kept with the departments. So based on what you ask, what records you ask me for, I'm gonna tell you what I can supply you, and if I can't, I'll tell you how to find them.
And
You know
how-
who to go
Do you
to.
get several a week open records requests?
No, I'm not hammered with them.
Okay.
I probably get, less than 5 a month.
All right, good deal.
Got time for probably a couple more questions. Speaking of hammers, I asked.
I
who
walked
you-
right into that, didn't I?
Well, Dennis set the table there. And I asked you who the large donors and what is the relationship to you. One was Bob Milner. And the other, interestingly, was Eric Yallick. So is that the same like Golden Hammer?
Well, yeah, we all know who Eric Yallick is.
Right, okay, all right. So now he's kind of written some unflattering things about you guys, you and Mark. Explain his support for you and how it came about.
Well, I think he saw value in the services that I offered. He, when I had my fundraiser last year, he participated in it. He showed up. He wrote a really flattering statement afterwards.
Would you say he's confused or
I will say that his website,
conflicted? Or?
you know, I noticed that when you all sent the vetting forms, one of the articles that you referenced was one of Yallett's articles.
Eric's, yeah.
And it's a propaganda website,
Mm.
you know, and it just is what it is. But yes,
But he's
he
still
gets.
a large donor for your
He was,
support.
yeah, last year.
Yep. Okay. All right. Larry? I was just curious, I mean, that really kind of
Look, I mean,
jumped out at.
Eric tried to hire Mark at least 4 times that I can think of off the top of my head, and this is all retaliatory, and we are where we're at.
What is the budget of your department? How much a year, your annual budget?
$693.
$693. And the treasurer's, how much is the treasurer paid?
$135.
135, okay. All right, Dale, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, following up on the question that John asked earlier about types of taxation. If I'm reading correctly, and you can certainly correct me if I'm not, but you tend to lean toward taxing businesses more than individuals. And in that context, I have always considered that any tax on a business is ultimately passed on to the individual. So it's still a tax on the individual. So why would, I guess I'm trying to understand why you believe that taxing corporations more heavily might be the way, or did I misread that?
I believe that it serves our county well when we're able to bring in new business, because businesses don't house people, so you're not increasing the number of county citizens, but you're definitely increasing the tax the tax revenue that's going to be generated by that business for coming here and for choosing Montgomery County.
So are you then you have more in mind the sales tax that the corporation generates rather than a corporate type tax? Property tax on the corporation, whatever?
I don't know that I've sat down with that to divide it up like that. I'd have to think that one through.
Okay, because again, my view is any tax on a business gets passed along to the purchaser of the product or service. And so, you know, you're not taxing the business, you're taxing the people with any tax. Anyway, okay, James?
Well, I think
Well, I think we've got time. I've got one more question I want to ask.
I'll pass to Marie.
Okay.
Yeah, just use that for my wrap up.
No. You'll have time to wrap up because you'll have time for yours. I'm just curious because it sounds like you're in favor of this creation of a chief budget officer, correct?
That was determined by the court. So I just know that this is a given. I think it will be good because it pulls it out of the county auditor's office. So then
Why is that good?
because then you have a situation where Phyllis isn't auditing the work that's produced in Phyllis Martin isn't auditing the work that's produced in her office.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's what I'll tell you. I had no opinion on that either way. I don't work at the pleasure of the court, but I work in support of the court. The court has made this decision and they're going to move forward with it. So I will support that effort.
But aren't you an independent officer of the county?
Right.
And so you do have a voice in what the commissioners say.
I do have a voice. I use it regularly.
Okay, so did you voice in favor or in opposition to the creation?
I did not voice an opinion over the budget. I did not voice an opinion over that.
Okay.
And along that line, the budget officer was already in place in the audit department. Why not use the same one? Is that?
I don't know what their plans are for that. You're saying that the budget officer, that department existed within the county auditors. I don't know what the plan is for that. So I know they posted the job, but I don't know what the plan is for the
So
auditor's
who was doing
department.
it in the auditing department?
Well, she had her, it was like a sub-department. It was the budget department.
But who was in charge of that? I mean, who was doing acting as the budget officer.
Right, okay, so she had an employee, and her name was Krista,
Okay,
and she reported directly to Phyllis.
yeah, but she's no longer there, or she won't be.
Right,
She won't be able to.
I don't know what her role will be.
Okay.
All right. You got Dennis?
Talk that.
Okay, she's got the 5 minutes for closing.
Well, yeah, she just deferred.
Yeah, I deferred it to you so that you.
No, I didn't want you to defer it to me because it's still 5 to 8, so you have plenty of time to make a closing if you want to, if it's all right with the chairman.
Well, I appreciate everybody. If you have any other questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, here's kind of, we've asked some one-offs here that don't particularly pertain to your department per se. And I know you have no control over, yeah, here's another one. Why does the agenda contain, Dell talked about something like, the numbers and then a $400, approval or spending that needs approval by the Commissioners Court. And yet, they run millions of dollars through a consent agenda.
Because it's already approved in their budget. They're just moving the funds.
When was it approved in their budget?
When they're, during budget workshops, when they go through the budget process. So it was just in a different line item, so they're requesting that those funds be moved to a different line item.
Okay. All right, that it?
But the $300 million that we've got, is that actually the checking account that they use for funding things on a week-to-week basis?
We have a general fund, and some of the funds are in there.
So last year, my taxes, where are they right now?
Okay, well, you paid your taxes, I know. You
My
paid your
pocket.
taxes. And to the tax assessor. Those funds go into her, she has a depository, they go there. The county portion comes over into the general fund for the Montgomery County. And then all of her taxing entities, then she's responsible, she sends those payments out.
And how much money does she have in her fund, do you know?
No, I don't know.
Just working fund. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you coming in. And